Hi, everyone. Welcome to English Story School, where we bring language learning to life through the power of storytelling. Have you ever felt like life keeps knocking you down, no matter how hard you try? Maybe you've hit rock bottom and wondered, is this really all there is for me? Trust me, I've been there. I've been so far down, I didn't even know which way was up. Homeless, hungry, and full of doubt. I stood in the cold, wondering if I would ever see a way out. But here's the truth. If I can go from rock bottom to millionaire, so can you. This isn't just a story of survival. This is a blueprint for transformation, a step-by-step guide to taking life's toughest blows and turning them into the foundation for something extraordinary. Let me walk you through my journey and show you how I went from struggling to thriving, and how you can do the same. Let's hit the pause button and rewind for a moment to a time when everything in my life seemed uncertain, and the future was nothing more than a foggy blur. Picture this. There was a time when I didn't know where my next meal was coming from. I was living day by day, with no safety net, no cushion to fall back on. I wasn't surrounded by a network of successful people or any kind of wealthy relative who could swoop in and save me. No trust fund, no handouts, no plan. It was just me alone in the trenches with nothing but a burning desire to change. I'd reached a point where I had no idea how to climb out of the hole I was in. The world felt heavy, and my future seemed like a distant dream I could never reach. Every day felt like a struggle to survive, and yet in the midst of that chaos, something inside me clicked. When you hit rock bottom, there's a moment that's almost impossible to ignore, a moment when you're forced to face the truth. There's no more pretending, no more escaping. It's just you staring down your reality. And in that moment of raw honesty, you're forced to ask yourself the most profound question of all. Do I want to stay here? And let me tell you, when I asked myself that question, the answer came like a flash of lightning. It was a resounding, undeniable, and emphatic no. Absolutely not. I couldn't stay there. Not physically, not mentally, and certainly not emotionally. The thought of being stuck in that place forever was unbearable. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, it wasn't an easy realization. It wasn't a moment of instant joy or inspiration. At that point, I didn't have a map to guide me, or even a clear idea of what the way out looked like. But that one question, do I want to stay here, cut through all the noise and gave me the clarity I needed. It was in that moment of deepest despair that I realized, if I wanted to change my life, if I wanted something better, then the only person who could pull me out of this was me. I didn't have anyone else to blame. I didn't have someone to lean on. I had to become my own hero. And that, right there, was the turning point. Rock bottom gave me a strange kind of freedom. When you're down to nothing, you have nothing left to lose. All the fear, all the doubt, all the insecurities, they fade into the background because there's no room for them anymore. And that's when the real power comes in. Because when you have nothing, you can finally see clearly. You stop focusing on all the things you don't have and start thinking about all the things you can create. In that space, I felt something rise inside me. It was this quiet, unshakable knowing that if I didn't take control of my life, if I didn't make a change right then and there, I would be stuck in that same place forever. And the thought of that, it terrified me more than anything else. So, I made a promise to myself. No more waiting for things to magically get better. No more relying on luck or hoping for a miracle. The change had to come from within. And from that moment on, I began to take action. That desire to change, that fierce determination to not stay stuck, became the fire that fueled everything that came after. It was like flipping a switch inside my brain. I wasn't just existing anymore. I was ready to fight for the life I deserved. And that fight, that commitment to change, would be the foundation of everything that came next. The lesson here is simple, yet powerful. When you hit rock bottom, when life seems like it's completely out of your control, don't see it as the end. See it as the beginning. It's in those moments of desperation that you can find your greatest clarity. And once you realize you're the only one who can change your life, you'll find the strength to take that first step. Because when you decide you're done with where you are, that's when the magic begins. And trust me, if I could rise from nothing, out of the darkest, most uncertain place, so can you. You have everything you need within you. All it takes is the decision to stop accepting life as it is and start creating the life you know you're meant to live. So ask yourself the question, do I want to stay here? If the answer is no, then it's time to move forward. And I'll be right here, cheering you on every step of the way. Let's talk about the first crucial step in this entire transformation process, acceptance. Now, before you get the wrong idea, let me be clear. When I say acceptance, I'm not talking about just rolling over and giving up. I wasn't sitting there feeling sorry for myself, resigned to the idea that life was always going to be this hard, this painful, or this uncertain. Far from it. In fact, I hated my situation. I was furious, frustrated, and fed up with the hand I had been dealt. But here's the game changer. Acceptance wasn't about giving up. It was about opening the door to possibility. Imagine this for a second. You're stuck in a place you don't want to be. Maybe it's a job that drains your soul, a relationship that feels like it's dragging you down, or a financial hole so deep you can't see the light. You're fighting it every day, pushing against the reality of where you are, wishing and hoping for things to magically change. But here's the catch. When you're busy fighting, you're not moving forward. In fact, you're stuck. You're stuck in a cycle of resistance, and all that resistance does is keep you in that same spot. Acceptance, in this case, is about acknowledging where you are, right here, right now, without the shame or guilt attached. It's saying, okay, I don't like this. In fact, I hate it, but this is where I'm at, and that's okay for now. And trust me, this isn't about passively accepting defeat. It's not about saying, well, this is my life, and I guess I'll just settle. No, this is about seeing your current situation as your starting point, not your final destination. Think about it like this. When you try to resist something, all it does is create friction. It's like swimming against a current. No matter how hard you try, it's exhausting, and you're not getting anywhere. But the moment you stop resisting, something incredible happens. You stop fighting the flow, and you start going with it. You start moving forward, even if you don't have all the answers yet. For me, accepting my situation was like taking a deep breath after holding my breath for way too long. It wasn't easy. I remember feeling that internal tug of war. Part of me wanted to stay in denial, to pretend everything would magically get better. But I also knew deep down that the only way to move forward was to first accept where I was. It wasn't about giving in. It was about choosing to move on. Here's where the magic lies. Acceptance doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean you're settling for a life of mediocrity or tolerating your problems. No. What it means is that you've freed yourself from the mental chains that keep you stuck. It means you've stopped wasting your energy on frustration and regret. You've taken the power back. And the moment you stop fighting where you are, you can finally start moving forward with clarity and purpose. For me, acceptance meant acknowledging that I had hit rock bottom. And that wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. When I accepted my circumstances, I stopped seeing myself as a victim of life's cruel twists of fate. Instead, I saw myself as someone with an incredible opportunity in front of them. The opportunity to rise. The opportunity to change. The opportunity to prove to myself and to the world that where I was didn't define who I could become. It's like a puzzle. If you try to assemble a puzzle without acknowledging where all the pieces are, you'll never finish it. You need to first accept that these pieces, no matter how jumbled they may seem, are the beginning of the picture. They're your starting point, and only once you see them for what they are, can you start piecing them together into something meaningful. Here's the real secret. Acceptance gives you permission to act. It removes the guilt, shame, and confusion that often paralyze us. It allows you to move from a place of stuckness into a place of action. Once I accepted where I was, I could finally start thinking clearly about where I wanted to go. It was like lifting a fog from my mind. Without that mental weight, I was free to take the next steps. No more second-guessing, no more self-doubt. Just clarity. What acceptance did for me was simple, yet profound. It empowered me to let go of the past and stop holding on to a fantasy of how things should have been. It was only when I fully accepted my reality that I could start building my new one. And when I started to take action, even if those first steps were small or imperfect, I noticed the momentum building. Acceptance, in essence, is the foundation that everything else stands on. Without it, you can't create anything new. But with it, you're free to move, free to grow, and free to evolve into the person you're meant to become. So, if you're reading this and finding yourself in a place you don't want to be, I want you to pause and ask yourself, can I accept where I am right now? Not as a place of defeat, but as the starting point for something greater. When you do, you'll find the strength to move forward, and that's when your real journey begins. Acceptance doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you're about to get unstuck and take off toward the life you've always dreamed of. And then, something truly powerful hit me like a lightning bolt. I didn't need a perfect plan. No, what I really needed was clarity, and that was the moment everything changed. Up until that point, I had spent years dreaming. But let's be real here. Dreams without specifics are just vague wishes. They're like a wish list for Santa. Nice, but unless you've got some real goals to back it up, it's not going to get you anywhere. I had spent far too much time wishing for a better life without actually asking myself the crucial questions that could help me shape it. I kept thinking, what if I could just have a little bit of success? What if I could just get ahead a little bit? But that's not enough. Not nearly enough. So, I decided to stop floating in the cloud of what-ifs and get grounded in some hard-hitting reality. I sat down and asked myself some of the most important questions I'd ever pondered in my life. What do I really want? Where do I want to be? Who do I want to become? And let me tell you, getting clear on those answers was nothing short of revolutionary. It was like the moment when you've been fumbling in the dark for hours, and someone finally flips the light switch. Suddenly, everything is illuminated. The fog clears. The confusion lifts. You can see. You can feel it. The path that was once blurry and uncertain is now crystal clear. You know where you're headed. You know what steps to take. You know what you're working toward. And, most importantly, you know why it matters. Before I had that clarity, I was like a ship lost at sea with no compass, drifting wherever the waves took me. I had all this potential, all these dreams, but no real direction. It was as if I had been throwing darts in the dark, hoping that something would stick. But once I gained that clarity, it was like I finally had a map, a blueprint, a personal GPS system that directed my every move. I could almost feel the energy shifting inside me. I could see it in my mind's eye, what I wanted my future to look like, how I wanted to grow, who I wanted to become. It wasn't a vague fantasy anymore. It was tangible. It was real. It wasn't a maybe someday kind of thing. It was, I'm going to do this. There was no more uncertainty about the next steps. Everything felt doable, achievable, and within reach. You see, Clarity doesn't just change your thoughts, it changes your actions. Once you know exactly what you're aiming for, every decision, every choice you make is no longer based on guesswork or indecision. It's focused. It's intentional. You're no longer wandering aimlessly. You're walking with purpose. Every step you take is aligned with that vision you now have. And that, my friends, is a game changer. Think of it like setting off on a road trip. If you don't know where you're going, you might end up just driving in circles, burning fuel, and wasting time. But the moment you plug that destination into your GPS, you know exactly where you're headed, and every turn you make brings you closer to that destination. Clarity works the same way. Once you know where you're going, you can start making the right turns, avoid detours, and navigate your way straight to your goals. But here's the catch. Clarity isn't just about what you want. It's also about who you need to become to achieve those things. For so long, I've been focused on what I wanted, but the real breakthrough came when I realized I needed to evolve into the person who could make those dreams a reality. It wasn't enough to just want success. I had to be ready for it. I had to grow, learn, and transform myself into someone who could handle the success I was seeking. That's where the real magic happens. When you realize that in order to reach your dreams, you have to become the best version of yourself along the way. So, what did I do with this newfound clarity? I got moving. Fast. And every action I took after that felt energized, focused, and much more powerful because it was all in alignment with that vision I had finally crafted. I wasn't just hustling for the sake of it anymore. I was working with intention. Every decision, every move I made was building the life I had finally defined in clear, actionable terms. And you know what? It worked. My life shifted in ways I never thought possible. But it all started with that one pivotal moment of clarity. That moment when I stopped drifting and started designing my future with purpose. When I stopped dreaming vague dreams and started living with a clear, actionable plan. That's the magic of clarity. It doesn't just give you a direction. It gives you the energy, the confidence, and the belief that you can make it happen. And when you have that, there's no stopping you. It's like having a superpower that makes you unstoppable. So, if you're feeling lost, unsure of where to go next, take a step back. Ask yourself those powerful questions. What do I want? Where do I want to be? Who do I need to become? Get crystal clear on the answers. Because once you do, everything shifts. The path opens up. The fog lifts. And suddenly, you're not just dreaming anymore. You're on the way to making those dreams your reality. Here's the thing that most people miss. The secret that will change everything for you. Clarity without action is just a daydream. That's right. You can have the clearest, most brilliant vision of your future. But if you don't take action, it's all just a fantasy. It's like having the best recipe in the world, but never cooking it. You can dream about it, talk about it, even plan for it, but until you start doing something about it, that dream stays exactly where it is, in your head. For me, it was a hard lesson to learn, but once I did, it was a game changer. I didn't have all the money, resources, or connections that everyone else seemed to have. I didn't have some golden roadmap that would show me the exact path to success. I had nothing except one thing: determination, a burning, relentless desire to change my life. That was my secret weapon. That was what kept me going when things got tough, when I didn't know what to do next, and when the odds seemed stacked against me. So here's what I realized. There's never going to be a perfect moment. People always wait for that magical time when everything aligns perfectly, when they have all the right resources, or when all the stars are in the right position. But guess what? That moment never comes. Life doesn't wait for the perfect circumstances to fall into place. The perfect moment is a myth, and the longer you wait for it, the longer you'll stay stuck. So I stopped waiting. I stopped overthinking. I stopped worrying about getting everything right, and I got moving. Even though my first steps were messy, even though I had no idea what I was doing half the time, I took them anyway. And let me tell you, those first steps were far from graceful. I stumbled. I made mistakes. I fell flat on my face more times than I'd like to admit. There were days when I wondered if I was even on the right path at all. But here's the kicker. Every mistake taught me something. Every setback gave me valuable lessons that refined my approach and made me better. It wasn't the mistakes that held me back. It was my response to them. When I fell, I didn't let it stop me. I got back up and kept going. And as I stumbled forward, I gained more insight, more wisdom, and more strength. Each failure made me smarter, more resourceful, and more determined to succeed. I began to see my mistakes not as signs that I was doing something wrong, but as feedback, a tool to get better, a compass to show me which direction to take next. It's easy to get discouraged when things don't go according to plan. It's easy to feel like you've failed or that you're not cut out for success. But what I learned the hard way is that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of it. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Each failure makes you stronger, more resilient, and more adaptable. It's through failure that you learn how to succeed. And here's the secret about taking action. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, waiting for perfection is one of the biggest traps people fall into. Perfection doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the perfect plan, the perfect time, or the perfect approach. The beauty of action is that it can be messy. It's about getting started, even when things are uncertain, even when you don't have all the answers. It's about trusting yourself enough to take that first step, even if it's a little wobbly. For me, the more I acted, the more I learned. Every decision, every action, even the ones that didn't work out, became a stepping stone to something greater. With each mistake, I refined my methods, I adjusted my approach, and I kept moving forward. The key wasn't getting everything right. It was just keeping on going. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. At first, you might wobble, you might fall, and you'll probably scrape your knee a time or two. But each time you get back on, you get better. You find your balance. And before you know it, you're cruising down the road without even thinking about it. That's what taking action does. It teaches you how to ride. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes, and before long, you're moving toward your goals at full speed. So, don't wait for the perfect moment. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Start messy. Start imperfectly. Because the first step is the most important one, and you can't get anywhere without taking it. Every step you take is progress, even if it doesn't feel like it at first. Every mistake you make is a lesson that's going to make you smarter, stronger, and more prepared for the next challenge. So if you're feeling stuck, if you're waiting for the perfect moment to take that leap, let this be your sign. There is no perfect moment. There's just now. And the moment you decide to take action, that's when the magic starts to happen. No matter how messy it is, no matter how uncertain you feel, just do it. Take that step, and know that with every mistake, every setback, you're only getting closer to the person you're meant to be and the life you're meant to live. In the end, it's not about avoiding mistakes. It's about embracing them and using them to fuel your journey. So, are you ready? The world is waiting for you to take action. Let's do this. The road from rock bottom to millionaire was anything but straight. In fact, it was more like a winding, uphill journey that seemed to zigzag at times, with obstacles lurking around every corner. The first steps were the hardest. I didn't have a map, I didn't have a guide, and I certainly didn't have a clear path in front of me. What I did have, though, were a lot of bumps, bruises, and setbacks that seemed to pop up at every turn. But what I learned along the way was life-changing. Those bumps, they didn't defeat me. They taught me. And that's a lesson I want to share with you because it's something so many people get wrong. Let's face it, failure is terrifying. It's that big, looming monster that most people try to avoid at all costs. Society even builds this myth around success that you have to get everything right from the start. But here's the shocking truth I discovered along my journey. Failure wasn't a stop sign. It wasn't a reason to quit, to throw in the towel, or to give up on my dreams. In fact, failure turned out to be something completely different. It was a stepping stone. When you're at rock bottom, the idea of failure can feel like the end of the road. You're already down, and the last thing you want is to fall further. But here's the twist. Failing didn't push me further down. It gave me the momentum to rise higher. Every setback, every wrong turn, every misstep along the way was actually a lesson, a tool that helped me grow, learn, and refine my approach. At first, I didn't see it that way. Oh no. Back then, I was terrified of failing. I hated it. I thought each mistake was a sign that I wasn't cut out for success, that maybe I wasn't good enough. But here's what changed. I stopped seeing failure as something to be feared and started seeing it as something to be embraced. The failures didn't stop me. They refined me. They shaped me into someone who was more resilient, more resourceful, and more determined than ever to reach my goals. It wasn't easy. I fell down a lot. I made some really bad decisions. I did things that didn't work out the way I expected them to. But each time I fell, I got up stronger. I got up wiser. And I got up more committed to the vision I had for my life. It wasn't just about staying afloat. It was about learning to swim, and not just swim, but to dive into challenges head first and use them as tools to get ahead. Here's the secret that so many people miss. Failure is never final unless you let it be. It's only when you view failure as a dead end that it becomes one. But when you see it for what it really is, a stepping stone, a powerful shift occurs. Instead of shrinking away from failure, you start to approach it with curiosity. You start to ask yourself, what did I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? And that's where the magic happens. Every failure becomes an opportunity, a lesson, a building block that adds up over time. It's those small lessons that build the foundation for your future success. You see, the road to success is messy. It's never going to be a straight path. And if you're waiting for it to be perfect, you'll be waiting forever. But once you accept that the road is bumpy, that you'll make mistakes, and that you'll stumble, that's when you get free. That's when the pressure lifts, and you start seeing failure in a whole new light. For me, it was about realizing that the only way to get to the other side of rock bottom was to go through the tough stuff head on. There were days when I felt like giving up, when I didn't know how I was going to keep going, but I kept going. I took that next step, even when I didn't know where it would lead. And slowly, bit by bit, I started to see progress. I started to climb out of the hole I had been in. I started seeing the bigger picture, because while I had been focused on avoiding failure, I wasn't seeing the bigger truth. Failure is part of the journey. It's not the end of the road. It's the preparation for the road ahead. Now, I look back at all those failures, and I don't see them as mistakes. I see them as the necessary steps I had to take to get to where I am today. Every failure, every fall, every bump along the way has taught me something valuable. And here's the key thing I've learned. Those who succeed aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who embrace it, learn from it, and keep moving forward no matter what. If I had given up after my first failure, I wouldn't be where I am today. If I had stopped after the 10th or the 100th failure, I wouldn't have made it to the top. But I didn't stop. I realized that success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about using failure as fuel. It's about not letting any setback define you, but instead using it as a stepping stone to climb higher. So, I want you to understand this powerful truth. Failure is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally. It's the tool that helps you refine your approach, sharpen your skills, and develop the grit and perseverance you need to make your dreams a reality. And here's the most exciting part. The more you fail, the closer you are to success. The more you fall, the stronger you get. The more you stumble, the more you learn. Each failure is another lesson, another step on the road to becoming the person you were always meant to be. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid of those bumps, those bruises, those stumbles along the way. Because those are the moments that will shape you, teach you, and ultimately propel you to success. Failure isn't a stop sign. It's the green light that says, you're on the right path. Keep going. Keep learning. Keep growing. The road to success might be winding and full of challenges, but with each step, you're getting closer to becoming the person you're meant to be. Another key lesson I learned was that success isn't a solo journey. For the longest time, I thought I had to figure it all out on my own. But the truth is, no one succeeds alone. You need a tribe. I found mentors who had already walked the path and people who believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And let me tell you, having the right people by your side when times get tough, it's priceless. But the most powerful shift came when I realized something profound. Becoming a millionaire wasn't just about money. It was about my mindset. Starting from zero, you can't rely solely on strategy. You've got to become the person who deserves success. I began to think like a winner. Instead of seeing obstacles, I saw opportunities. Instead of focusing on what I didn't have, I embraced what I could create. I started living as though the life I wanted was already mine, and that belief pulled me through every challenge. Here's the blueprint that changed everything for me, and that you can use to transform your life. 1. Accept where you are. Understand that your current situation is just a starting point, not your final destination. 2. Get crystal clear on your vision. Don't just wish for a better life. Define it. What does it look like? What do you need to do to make it happen? 3. Take massive, imperfect action. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Just start. Messy action is better than no action. 4. Embrace failure. Failure isn't a setback. It's a lesson. Don't fear mistakes. Learn from them. 5. Surround yourself with the right people. Build a tribe of mentors, supporters, and peers who help you grow and push you forward. 6. Shift your mindset. You need to think like the person you want to become. Your mindset shapes your reality. And here's the final, most powerful lesson. Your dream life isn't a far-off fantasy. It's happening right now in the choices you make today, the actions you take today, and the mindset you adopt today. So, if you're reading this, know this. The life you've been dreaming of isn't out of reach. It's already within you. It's waiting for you to take the first step. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.